welcome everybody. Now that it's 10 o'clock, welcome to the Retired Living Truth series. And today's topic is the truth about choosing a retirement living community. And has anybody recently moved into a community, just out of interest? Has anyone recently made a move at all? No one. Wow. Who loves the home they're in and they're never moving? Everybody, put your hands up. Yeah. So as we always talk about in these seminars, and actually this month it marks our 7th year. We are starting our 7th year. We started in June 7th.
2016.
2016, yeah. We thought we'd just do 3 or 4 and we'd be done, but we are still. But the whole thing behind our seminar series is, to plan. We always talk about planning, knowing what your options are, being informed, being educated. And today's really about knowing what are our options. If we weren't to stay where we are now, what options do we have available to us and why would it make sense to consider those? And again, even if you don't plan on doing anything, that's probably why you're all here. It's just to know what those options are. If I had to do something, what would that be? What would it look like? And how would I go about doing that? Do we have new people today? Yep, number of new people. So for those who are new, just very briefly, basically the way this will work is we have 4 panelists today who we'll invite up on stage in just a moment. And we've prepared questions on your behalf, and we're going to ask those questions of the panelists. And we'll do that to roughly about 11 o'clock, and then we'll open it up to your questions you have of the panelists. So if you have questions, please just write them down. We won't take questions for the first hour. And then at about 11 o'clock, then you can ask all the questions you want. You should all have a handout. There's a spot there to write down questions, and we'll talk more about the handout as we go along. So we had a couple of truths we just wanted to start with.
The only way to truly remain in control of both where and how you live as you grow older is to plan now. And that's what's so phenomenal about all of you being here. Even though you haven't made a move, you want to stay where you are, it's just planning ahead, because that way you'll have control over what happens in your future.
And our second truth we wanted to share is your next move may or may not be your last move. So who thought the last time they moved, that was it? Yep, most people, and that's how we all feel. This is it. This is the house. I'm going to be here forever. Just know that's usually not the case. For most people we work with, there is another move.
We actually moved a lady recently. It was her 3rd forever home that we sold for her.
3rd forever home, yeah. So always just be thinking, what would the next move be if we needed to make a move? What are some of the reasons why we might end up making a move even though we don't plan on moving? Throw some out. What was that? Grandchildren, yeah. Maybe it'd be closer to grandchildren. What else? Health. Health's a big one, yeah. Health changes and we can't manage the home anymore. What else? Wanting to downsize, yeah. Wanting less space. I heard family. Closer to family. Oh, losing a spouse, yeah. Having this house no longer makes sense, either because of the size or maybe the memories. Wanting to start another chapter, yeah. So those are all just some of the common reasons why people end up making that 3rd forever move.
Right.
Spouse, yeah. Fantastic. Can't maintain, yeah, house becomes too much to maintain. So we've put up here the different types of living options that are available to us. And it's just going to touch very quickly on the blue box.
So aging in place, that could mean aging in your current home that you're in, or it may mean that you want to move to a smaller space and age in place on your forever home. So there are options in Reno. If you're looking at 55 plus communities, we do have several active adult communities. This is cutting in and out. We have several active adult communities. That basically means that they do have, that just means that they do have a clubhouse. They have all these activities that are ongoing that you can participate in. And we've got several that are here in Reno and Sparks area. We also do have some smaller homes that you can move into that are not active adult, but they are 55 plus. And that just means everybody in the community is over the age of 55. There are very few exceptions, but anybody that purchases in the community must be over the age of 55. And then in this area, we do not have apartments unless it's a 55 plus apartment where income. Yeah, affordable housing. So just apartments or condos for 55 plus, it does not exist here unless you're affordable housing. And then we do have, so sometimes we just have people that just want smaller spaces in general, so that do not fall into the 55 plus arena. But for the most part today, we're going to be focusing on these other living communities. So independent, assisted, and memory care. And if you have questions about just housing, if you just want a smaller space, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that outside of this.
Yeah, fantastic. We also have a directory too we'll make available that has all of the different options available. It's also on our website. You can download it, talk more about it.
You can download that. And if you are at all interested in this and us sending you this directory, you just mark it on your yellow sheet and we will be happy to send it out to you for free.
So can I have my panelists come up and join me? Welcome, Mark, Lisa. Hey, Nita, Nate. Yeah, just turn on your mics. We'll start with you, Mark. I think you're all mic'd up, ready to go, are you? Maybe just tap it. No, it's not on. So we'll start with you, Nate. No, Nate's working out the technology as well. I'll come and help you. Let's start with you. Who's mic ready to go? You're on. Oh, there we are. You
check. All right, I think I got it, Brett.
Okay, now let's just start with you, Nate. Who are you? Where are you from? Why would you be on our panel today?
Thank you, Brett. My name is Nate Williams, and I've been working in senior living for the last couple of years and loving it. I'm the administrator at an independent living community here in South Reno called Mountain Lakes Estates. So the yellow one that he was talking about. And just love being able to provide a nice, beautiful home for seniors like you guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nate. Nita, same question. Where are you from? What do you do? And why might you be here today? That question to you, Lisa, while I help people.
Oh, good morning. Hi, I'm Lisa Arch. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Premier Residences of Reno. I have been in the industry with 5-star for 10 years and probably another 7 in volunteering and being a CNA, starting my way from the bottom up. I love working with multi-generations, and it's definitely every day is different, and I'm just blessed to have the job I love.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Back to you, Nita.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nita Mir. I am here from Clearwater, Ranchera. I always wanted to be on the Oprah Winfrey show, and I think today is the stepping stone because I got a mic with a fancy handheld. So I feel very fortunate to be here. Thank you, Brett and Janelle. With that said, I've been professionally in the senior community for 5+ years, but personally, I've lived with my grandparents for 20+ years. So I'm very familiar with the seniors and the senior community. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nita. And Oprah, here we come. Yeah. Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Schultz. I am not working still.
No.
How's that? Yep. Let's get that higher. Now
Yes.
now it's okay. All right. I'm Mark Schultz. I'm the Executive Director of Revel Ranchera. I've been with Revel Ranchera since we started pre-selling 5 years ago. And I've been in the senior living space my whole career since I was 19. I've done everything from running nursing homes, home care companies, home health agencies, assisted living, memory care. So I'm pretty versed in all of the different levels. And I truly just love independent living because there are no rules. The only rules that I have to follow are the ones that my residents make. So I really like that.
Thank you all. So just before we jump in. Now my clicker's not working. Oh, there we go. So if we could just start with you, Mark, just identify which community you represent, just so people kind of got a visual. Which box do you fit in here on the screen?
So I fit in the yellow box exclusively. We are purely independent living, no care. We don't provide any personal care in our community.
Great. Lisa, are you in one box, many boxes?
I am in 2 boxes,
Two boxes.
actually. I'm the yellow and the purple. So we are continuum care. So you would come and move in with us as an independent resident, knowing that there are services then as your health needs change.
Fantastic. If you're wanting to make notes, should be on the second page of your handout. Nita, which box or boxes do you fit into?
So I am in 2 boxes, purple and green. We have assisted living and memory care.
Assisted of memory. Okay, great. And then Nate.
Yeah, the yellow box. I'm in the yellow box, everyone. I'm IL.
IL, independent living. Fantastic. So let's start with you, Mark. One reason we all want to stay in our home, as was obvious at the beginning. None of us plan on moving. So you guys aren't going to have any move-ins in the next 5 years. We're all staying where we are. But with that said, if someone was moving, what's one reason someone would want to move into a community like yours?
One of the reasons people choose, and I say choose, not need, they choose to move into an independent living community is to make their life easier. They don't have to find a plumber. They don't have to find somebody to fix their air conditioning unit. We manage all of that for you. So ease of life. You want an easier life.
I can relate to that this morning. Woke me up going, do you realize our sprinkler outside is a big geyser? There was just water going everywhere. It's like crap. If I lived in a community thinking about today, I wouldn't have to deal with it. Mark would have to go out and fix the sprinkler.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So what's a different reason? One reason.
Well, when your family perhaps is having honest conversations with you and you're seeing that the benefits of remaining in your home is really outweighing the fact that, you are maybe perhaps alone now and your social contacts, you're not maybe able to drive and that's isolating you further. And all of the neighbors helping and things like that are really starting to add up, and it's maybe not a reasonable situation. And we see a lot of folks that, you make that list. I love the list that you've compiled. When does that tip over? And then maybe when you're getting your mind a little bit more open to the fact that, wow, there's other experiences that I could be doing right now besides just being alone at home.
Thank you, Lily. Nita, one reason.
So one reason would be, so when you say assisted living, it can also be looked at as enhanced living. The quality of your living experience is enhanced by connecting with other residents, making new friends, and joining more fun activities and happy hours instead of being isolated or alone in your current setting. So
I'm hearing socialization.
yes,
pretty much.
socialization
Yeah.
is the big thing.
Very important, as you said, avoiding depression. Nate, what's one reason you hear all the time?
Yeah, I will second that. Socialization, right? Folks are tired of eating a meal alone, right? And that's my favorite part of the job is seeing folks come in. They've been in their own home, and then they get to make friends, and then you're eating meals with those people every day, and going to different clubs and really living, right? That's the emphasis.
Very well said. But you cheated. You piggybacked Nita's, so you have to come up.
You made me go last, Brett. Come on, man.
Can you think of one more?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I think upkeep. So your neighbors, your neighbors, the neighborhoods around here are starting to change, right? And maybe you don't fit in as well in your neighborhood. Or yeah, like I like how you pronounce geyser, Brett. Like you got geezers out front, right? Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, it's a pain to deal with that stuff. So
Thank you. Out, I'm not a local.
I couldn't tell.
You knew that. Yeah, pretty obvious, the accent. So let's start with you, Mark. So let's talk about independent living. So if we think about where we're all living now, if we came to your community, how would that look and feel different?
It looks different because you're part of a community. You're no longer living independently in your home, so you have other people around you. So there are a few more rules. I know I said I don't like to follow rules, but there are a few more rules because you have more people living with you. But what's really nice about that is you do have that socialization piece, that aspect. During COVID, how many of you got out and saw your friends on a regular basis? Right? If you live in a community, it's kind of like living with 160 of your friends, but you can also go back to your apartment and close the door. And so it really allowed those individuals to stay socially active and stimulated. And that I think is one of the big differences that you'll be seeing when you move in. And I always say, you know, if something feels hard, something's wrong. We're there to make your life easy.
Thank you, Mark. Lisa, given you're in the independent box as well,
Yes.
do add.
Well, I think that I will second the fact that the stress level really reduces. You're typically in a situation like this, you have one bill, for example, that encompasses everything. So you can really not have to keep track of the mail and worry about are things on time. You know, let's say you have lost the ability to drive for whatever reasons. You know that or the people that are in our community, they're going together. Now you have someone to go with to things and you're not just doing those alone. I think one of the things that I see is joy as well. I see a lot of joy for people and saying, you know, why didn't I do this before? And really finding some new passions and being able to also revisit some things that they used to be able to do that maybe perhaps because of COVID had, you know, not been able to participate in. So.
Okay, great. Nate, what would you add? And can we talk about restrictions? Mark mentioned what might be some restrictions, or what might be the thing that restrictions?
Yeah, Mark and I are both in the IL, independent living only category. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't like rules as well, unless the residents create them for me, which they often do. So yeah, we try to give folks ease of access as much as we can. I love to see the lock and leave lifestyle where I have residents who are going on trips. I got one that's going to Bhutan, which I had to look up on the map. She's a birder. So she's going to Bhutan for a month. And so being able to have the peace of mind, right? She can make sure that, you know, if a package is delivered, she's given us permission to go and drop that in her room, right? She has the housekeeping team watering her plants. And so that's just one of the really nice things. Restrictions, you know, if your health starts to decline to a point where you can't take care of yourself anymore, that's a really, you know, of course it's a delicate conversation, but it's a conversation we're going to have with your, you know, the emergency contact or the person that you designate. We're going to have that conversation with, like, hey, your mom, it seems like she needs a higher level of care. And then we can help facilitate that move to a place like Lisa's or Nita's, and you can get assisted living or skilled, things like that.
Can I bring that into your community if I just need a little bit of assistance? Can I bring in like Ryan Hart's Amada home care to help?
Of course, yeah. PT, OT, caregiving. You know, we have all different levels of people's needs, right, in our community.
Okay. Pets.
Yeah, of course. No, we have a lot of great animals that live in our community. We got one named Twinkle, who's a golden retriever. She's like the celebrity of our community. She's probably my favorite resident. And got a lot of cats. And so, yeah, we don't want folks to have to make that choice, right? As they're moving into a community, you can bring your pet with you. There's a small fee, $750. It's a one-time fee for us for a pet.
Lisa, talk to me about it.
So we have and I will speak, you know, in the industry, I think we've really seen some really nice changes. You know, it used to be just, you know, maybe reading the paper or, you know, some piano, but people's interests are so varied. And I think that the climate is changing of interest with internet and everything, so many things that you can participate in. You know, you want something that will be challenging as well as enriching for you. So for example, we had a drumming group that came in. Nobody had ever drummed, and we were waiting to see how this was going to work with hearing aids, but people loved it, absolutely loved it. It was a full class by the end of the series. But, you know, you want to look at activities that maybe pique your interest, you know, make sure that they're varied, that there's music, there's maybe spiritual, maybe there's you know, talks that you can go to that are provided with our UNR being so close by, like Ollie, for example, you know, Do they have a good mixture of things that are going on? Is there a good activities director? And are they specifically geared towards the particular populace? So for example, is there one just for assisted living that, then can be enriching? So I think most all of our properties have a wonderful calendar. So you can see things every day.
So how many things typically on a calendar day? Is it one thing I have to check on, or?
No, there would be several. So for example, there's going to be physical activity. There's going to be something, that is, like a new class or something of that nature. We do painting. There's groups, and I love this because there will be someone who moves in, and there's a person I'm thinking of who is a watercolorist who just said, wait, we don't have a watercolor class. And she just started her own, and you support that kind of activity that people can create their own as well. But no, and then there's shopping and going to the, aqua aerobics and et cetera, et cetera. So really the sky's the limit. And many places are very resident directed. So they'll say like, we want to do this. And we'll say, how can we make it happen? How can we assist you?
So there's activities in the community and out of the community. both.
Outside of the community. So you're not
Okay.
just inside those walls. You're really a part of Reno still. So yeah.
And I'm coming back to you, Mark, but one quick question. What's your youngest resident for each of you?
I can start. I have a resident that's 62.
62 is your youngest?
That's my youngest resident.
Can anyone beat 62? Anyone got someone younger than 62?
I have a 59.
59, Mark wins.
God.
Hold on.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, here you are.
I could say something to that, but it'd be totally inappropriate, so. But I know there's others thinking it.
Okay, can you hear me now better? Okay.
Thank you. So 59, Mark wins. What about our oldest resident?
104.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's still very active. I mean, independent living. Yes. Good
59 to
genes,
104.
good genes.
So that's what, a 45-year span? Yeah. Yep. So then, Mark, we were talking about activities and again, how the community is different to where we may be now. You had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, and one of the things that I want you to think about is when you look at the three colors up there, the three boxes, when we're talking about independent living, that is a choice to move into. I think that's something that a lot of people miss when they come and they look at an independent living, they say, well, I don't need that yet. And my response is, when you do, I'm not the right place for you. Need starts at the purple in assisted living. You don't need it. You can still move into assisted living even if you don't need anything. But in independent living, when you need something more, you will need to really be looking at assisted living. Independent living really is one of those things that maybe you need one thing to help you remain independent. That's the whole key, right? What do you need to be independent to do whatever you want when you need it and not need assistance from the staff of the community? So many of my people, they move in because they cannot drive anymore. And the transportation services is the only thing that keeps them from really struggling at home. So when they move in, they now have a bus that can take them to shopping, to get them to doctor's appointments, everything else in their daily life, they're independent and they choose everything that they want to do. So that's the main thing. You choose to live into independent living. You don't need to.
Yeah, very good distinction. So a lifestyle choice versus a need. And I just heard a few phones going off, and remiss of me at the beginning not to ask everyone or remind everybody, please turn off your cell phones. So Mark, you touched on transportation. So can I bring my car with me, or I only use the transportation that's in an independent living?
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, independent living is like an apartment building with services, restaurant, housekeeping. We take care of the maintenance. Usually all of your utilities are included. And almost every single one, I can't say 100%, but all of the ones that you'll see in Reno all have a transportation service of some sort. So either a shuttle or an arrangement with Lyft or Uber. And then many people bring their cars. That's probably one of the biggest things is cars. And where do they park their cars? I have residents that bring 2 cars. I had a resident that brought 3 cars. So they still bring their cars, because that is really, that's something that they're not willing to give up yet. And they may, or they may not. So.
Thank you. Lisa, you touched on one bill. What did you mean by that?
So one of the things that you'll want to look at in evaluating different companies and properties is that, you know, what is included? Because sometimes some things can be very a la carte. So for example, you know, maybe most, I will say, you know, it is your base rent. It should include your meals, or does it not include your meals? Do you have housekeeping? And if so, how much do they help you? If you need extra help, is that an extra charge then? So the idea really is that, you know, your utilities, that cable, the phone, internet, those things start to become inclusive within the price, so that you have the ability to really manage your finances and to continue to be a part of that, as well as then, you know, knowing your budget and what, you know, I know everyone worries about outliving their money. And so finding a community that really fits your budget, I think, is really important in that aspect as well. So the more that can be included, the better.
Thank you. So talking about budget, Mark, you and I have had the conversation several times how important it is for people to look at a budget. And I think you helped me put this together some time ago. But what would you say about budget? And everyone has it in their handout, a budget. How does that differ from where we are now to where we might be if we moved into one of your communities here?
That's a very great comment. And many times when you hear what it costs to move into an independent living, you get immediate sticker shock, because like Lisa said, it's one price. But what all goes into that price is important. And there's a great budget piece in your packet that allows you to put down everything that you currently spend and get a total. And then what would you get? What would it cost in another community? Now, are you going to get a 3,000 square foot home for the mortgage payment that you had, you know, 10, 15 years ago, or maybe you paid it off? No, you're not. So you have to be a little bit reasonable with your mortgage payment, but then look at all of the other expenses that you have that go through. What do you pay for gas and power? And remember, they're increasing your power bill. You know, do you have to pay all of that in an independent living? Most likely not. You really need to look at the brass tacks and see, well, what are you really paying? Some of you may know, but many, many, many people don't. And when they do the work, they can say, oh yeah, I totally see that. You also have to think about, okay, yes, it is more expensive for food and other things, but you're paying somebody to do that for you. What do you currently pay your housekeeper? What do you currently pay your handyman? What do you currently pay for groceries? You know, what do you pay for fuel and insurance and licensing? All of that you have to put in to a realistic budget to really say, does it really pencil? Some people will never be able to make it pencil because they will never be able to really see it. Others will say, yeah, well, it's $2,000 cheaper to live in my home. But as Nate said, I can lock the door and walk away, and I know Nate's going to take care of it for me while I'm gone. What is that worth? There are some intangible costs that you have to look at.
I guess one of the challenge ones we usually forget is maintenance. Those costs of things that have to be replaced can really start to add up as well.
And what is a new AC unit going to cost?
New roof.
New roof. They used to be a little bit less expensive, but I'm realizing today that they're a lot more expensive. You could probably get a whole year of living in independent living for the cost of a roof these days, right?
Most definitely. Last time I checked, most housekeepers don't prepare your meals for you. 3 meals a day either. Yeah. So let's just talk about cost. Representative of Reno, maybe Nate, do you want to take it? Anyone
Yeah.
want to jump in?
You guys want to know how much we cost? So my base price is
Well,
20
just talk generically.
generically.
What a community's trying to start at. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you guys in. All right.
Yeah.
Come talk to me after about costs. I'll tell you. Yeah, I think that's one of the really great things about being in Reno, right? Is you have a lot of choices. And so yeah, our costs are gonna be all in one. You pay your rent based on the size of your apartment where I'm at. So I have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and your price is going to differ because of that. We have a move-in fee and a pet fee, like I was talking about. And if it's a couple, if you have a second person, then we add on an additional charge per month, right? So you got your base rent let's say it's 3,250, you would add 750 for that second person.
Okay. So just to anyone on the panel, what's the lowest we would start at for like a studio unit in Reno in independent living? What's that kind of starting?
Around 4,000-ish.
4,000?
Yes, 4,000 plus.
Anyone aware of less than 4,000, or that's kind of the
Ours is around 3,000
three,
for a
okay.
studio. Mhm.
Yeah, so 4,000 would probably be an assisted living community. Independent living, you're looking at about, on the low end, $2,500 for a studio. And, there are some communities that get all the way up to 7,700 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So
Mm.
that is your range in Reno right now, is 2,500 to about 7,700, depending on the community that you look at.
Okay, great. 25 to 77. Perfect. Thank you. So let's move to assisted living. So let's start with you, Nita. So how does assisted living look different to what Mark, Lisa, and Nate have talked about? So if I walked into your assisted living community, how would that be different from just walking out of Mark's or Nate's, Lisa's community?
So in assisted living, you would see a care team that will be available to assist you with your activities of daily living, such as bathing, changing, escorting, transferring. So your basic daily activity needs. So that's the difference. We have care partners, which are caregivers, and we also have medication management technicians that are there to assist you with your medication. So that is the difference between independent and assisted living, where we are there to assist you depending on your personalized care plan.
So what about a hospital? Is that where I'm going to be living? Or is it someone like the other communities and independent? How does it look and feel different?
So talking about our community, it looks amazing. It looks like a luxury hotel for seniors.
Okay.
So it looks and feels like a residential home, like an apartment building with luxuries to enhance the quality of your life. So when you come in, you will feel like your new home away from your existing home. And we have lots of help for your daily activities, from activities to housekeeping, to maintenance, to care, to meds. So all those partners are there to help you. And it's similar to independent, but with benefits of care and meds.
Okay, so it's like independent with benefits. I like that.
Yes.
So Lisa, you're both independent living.
Correct.
Buildings, independent living are over here and assisted are over there. And
No, our property, actually, it's really lovely in the sense that our assisted living is on the ground floor. So once you've been with us for years, as an independent living person, you've built your community and friends, you may change location, but you're still under the same roof, and you're able to participate in all the things that you were doing before. Assisted living, of course, without saying, is then something that is licensed by the state. So it does fall under completely different regulations. And that's what the reference, to care plans and things, that you would work with your doctor hand in hand, finding that good balance of support. Many people always ask me also, this is a moment, if you have a long-term care policy, that typically that would be active then. There's many policies as there are stars in the sky. So so you really need to be well versed in your own and see if and some policies actually do allow help even in independent living. So if you have to have a home health agency, perhaps just coming in a couple hours a day, that may be covered. So
could you just clarify on that? Something I didn't pick up on. So you said like long-term care insurance is one way to help pay for assisted living.
absolutely.
What about
Yes.
independent living? How do we pay for independent living that you just spoke about?
Independent living typically is private pay. It across the board. I've yet to, unless you are on a state program, you're a recipient of Medicaid, and then you are in a different, there are wonderful properties here within Reno that do that. I do know there's long waiting lists and et cetera, of course. But yes, I think across the board, all of us are private pay.
And then what about the things that Mark, Nate, and yourself spoke about in independent living? Do they hold true for assisted living? Pets, activities, parking, You know, keep-
Yes, absolutely. We have folks in our assisted living that still have a car, you know, especially if the spouse is there and receiving the care. And that's something I do want to touch on. And I think you guys do this too. You know, what if only one spouse needs help? Then that person, which is wonderful for the other spouse that is still well, that, you know, that caregiving burden is taken off your shoulders, because caregiving can be very stressful, and burnout is a real thing. And so it's nice because then everyone's needs are being met. However, the other person who's still independent can be participating, for example, in our independent living, or they, you know, have the ability to go out into the community and continue their life.
Thank you. So Nita, tell us a little bit about how pricing cost works. You know, again, just across the community, whether it's your community or a Morningstar, Cascades, we have lots in the area. Is it just one set amount? How does that kind of work?
So in terms of pricing, we do have base rent depending on the square footage of the apartment. We do have studios, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments, and they are different square footages. And then we have care levels. So there are 8 care levels that we have for care, and then 3 med levels, depending on how many medications a person takes and how many times a day. And it's all point-based system. So depending on the assessment of that resident, each daily activity is gets a number of points. And based on the total points, there is a range for care levels. So our care levels range from care level 1 to 8. So depending on where you stand with your assessment, that's how your care level is based and your medication level is based. And our care level 1 starts from 600 and it goes up to 1200 and so on. And there are 8 care levels. And then our medication levels also, well, they start at 300 and they go all the way up to 900. So there is rent and then care level and med levels if you need the care and the meds.
Can I be in assisted living without care levels, or I must have a care level to be in assisted living?
Yes, fortunately in our community, you can be in our assisted living without care and meds. And it would be a continuum of care. So let's say you come in, you don't need care, and then there is an assessment done every 6 months. That is per state regulation. So we will do the assessment and see if there is a change in condition. And if you would like care, which is any assistance with the daily activities, from escorting to bathing to transferring to just minimal assistance, then we will, you know, then again, the assessment will base the points. And then if you need care, we'll add the care. So that is the option for you to be independent with no care, and then you can have care. It's better to plan that kind of setting before it's too late, because, you know, as we age, the risk of falling and, you know, just, you know, your day-to-day life, you can see the quality if you're able to do what you were able to do yesterday. And if anything has changed, to be mindful of where you stand today and before it's too late to get that assistance and be ready, and then choose instead of having someone else choose it for you. So.
Thank you. And then just you on that, so is the cost, the base rent cost the same independent living versus assisted living?
I will say that it's a very similar format, you know, whereas with assisted living, we have 4 levels of care. So you will see differences between companies, you know, how they do the assessment and what, you know, what the cost of those each levels are. So, but I cannot stress this enough that I can't tell you how many messages I have on my phone on a daily basis where I have a family member calling for their loved one who's, okay, mom just had her 3rd fall and now she's at Life Care Services for her rehab and she cannot go back home. What do you have available? Well, we have a waiting list. And that is something that I cannot stress enough, because then when you don't think ahead, someone else is going to be doing the thinking for you. And then the choice that you would like may not be available, or you end up somewhere you really don't like.
So it would be prudent for everybody, even if we're staying where we are, just to be aware of the options that if something happens. I'd like
Absolutely.
to move into that community.
Yes, yes. I think Mark and I would, I mean, everyone here, we tour people all the time. And, we're happy to do that. Please shop. I think it's what's really nice is there's a very strong camaraderie amongst all the properties here. We know each other. We refer to each other. We're not competing because we know that there's something for each one of you that's going to be a right fit. And we want to help facilitate that as well.
Yeah, in the 30 years that I've been working with seniors, there's two kinds of customers that I've seen. There's the God forbid anything happens, but I'm ready. And then there's the oh shit. And those are the ones that are like, oh shit, I need something tomorrow. You need to decide who you're going to be. And I'm going to tell you right now, God forbid is way easier. If you can at least have your top 3 list, when you need to make that decision, it's going to go so much faster because you're not going to have to go out and tour and see what we look like. Now, if you did your tour 5 years ago, you really should do another tour of all of the communities to make sure you've seen how they've changed and aged. All of our communities change as they get older, as the residents get older. And you need to know what's happening so that you really know what your top 3 are. And maybe you're on a waiting list on that top choice that you have, because waiting lists sometimes could be extremely long. But if you get on the waiting list early, you're at the top of the list. Does that mean that you have to take it when they call you? No. Almost, I think all of us run waiting lists the same, of where you get the call, you're not ready, they go to the next person. When the next apartment comes available, you're still top of the list, you get the call. That's the place you want to be. And hope you never need it.
Great advice. So just tell me about the oh shit. What does that look like? We don't do what you're suggesting. We'll deal with oh shit. What does that look like for the individual, the family?
It's a scramble. Whoever is making the decision for you is going to make the quickest decision. And I didn't say right in there or best, did I? It's the quickest. And especially whoever is managing it, if it's your daughter or your son or your spouse, they're extremely stressed at that moment. A lot is going on. They might be juggling a job and kids or the house or their own issues. And you're going to want to make sure that you've set them up and made that easy for them. Otherwise, have you all seen that bumper sticker? Be nice to your children. They picked a nursing home. I mean, it's funny, but it's true, right? And so that's the realities of it. And you really want to take power and the control of this so that you're ready. And it doesn't cost you anything to do this. The worst that's going to happen is you might get a meal that's not as good as the one that you went to the other time, but they're not going to charge you for it. So you're going to get some free lunch. No experiencing, right?
Well, we have happy hours every Thursday at 4 p.m. Please come and join the drinks and snacks and singing and dancing. You're all invited today, weekly, on Thursdays at 4 p.m.
No, I think it's a good point because like there's 3 of us here. Our communities didn't exist 5 years ago, right? And then you think there's so much going up in the Reno area. Lots of new happy hours and meals to go to, right? So go try them all, right? I think you hit it, Lisa, with fit, right? Everyone tells me, oh, space is the most important thing, right? Space. But for me, I would say it's finding your fit. Talk to residents. When you go on tours, don't talk to me, right? I mean, don't talk to us because we're good at our jobs, right? Talk to the residents. They'll tell you what's going on, right? And that's really important that you do that and find the place where, it's your future home, right? So you're picking your home. So find your fit.
Great advice. And actually in your handout, we've provided questions. If you are touring a community and are thinking maybe in the next 5 years, I might be making a move, we've provided a set of questions there that are specific to retirement communities. So to ask the residents the questions as well as the salespeople that are there. Mark, you touched on meals, and I don't think we talked about meals. So what do meals look like at different communities? Do I get a sack lunch each morning left at my room, or how does that kind of work?
Well, there is a saying, you get what you pay for. So the lower the cost, you might get a sack lunch, but not like it. It's really different everywhere. Some communities have included in your rent, you have 3 meals a day. Now, some of those are 3 meals with 2 choices, 4 choices, or maybe an open menu. Some communities give you dollar value, so you get maybe $500 to use during the month. Some communities use a point system and you get X number of points and then you buy more points. But you need to decide how you want to do that. What is the food like? How is it restaurant style or is it more cafeteria style? That will be one of the biggest decisions that you're going to need to make, because I think that's one of the decision makers between, I think all of us up here have choice. We're all restaurants, but there are other communities that aren't represented here that are a little bit more restricted on that. And you need to know that going in. But there are a lot of people that I meet that move into my community that it just doesn't work out because they can't manage a point system. They literally want 3 meals a day for their rent, no extra charges. That's not us. And we need to make sure that we get those people to the right community. So the meals will be are what really differentiate difference between independent living communities. I think we all have activities, we all have this and that, but that meal plan, the meals, I think everybody can say this, is the biggest complaint we deal with on a weekly basis. If I have 20 complaints this week, 19 of them are about the restaurant.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mark.
Thank you. I think that helps greatly. So Nita, let me just jump back to you. We haven't talked about the last box. So memory care. So how your community has both. So how does memory care differ to assisted living? And is that a choice? Do I choose to move into memory care, or is that something more out of necessity need?
So memory care is state regulated also, and residents with dementia and Alzheimer's, those are the residents that are in memory care, and a state required standard placement form is signed by the resident's physician in order to be in memory care. And since it's state regulated, the regulation is 1 care person per 6 residents. So we have 1 caregiver per 6 residents in memory care, and it is a secured unit. And so to make sure there is no elopement or wandering by the resident that is going through Alzheimer's and dementia. And all inclusive of care and meds actually are, again, the pricing is where there's base rent with level of care and level of meds. That is how it's set up. And but we have more hands-on care, and again, we do have programming like activities based on their cognitive level. And we have a lifestyle questionnaire that families fill out for the resident, and based on what the resident did in their life in the past, in their career or hobbies, that's how we gear the activities for that resident to make sure they still enjoy the quality of life, and whatever hobbies they had in the past, they still get to enjoy those. But it's more hands-on, more eyes on the resident in memory care.
Thank you. So with you, Nita, let me ask, your assisted living and memory care. So why would someone choose to move into not specifically your community, but a community that provides multiple assisted memory care, or maybe even independent? Why do people say they've chosen your style of community versus a standalone memory care or a standalone assisted living? What are some of the things that you hear why someone would choose a combined community that has multiple services?
So we have had couples in the past where one would need assisted living and the other would need memory care. That's a perfect setting for the spouses to be in one community where they both get to enjoy the dining services and activities, and they both get the assistance they need for memory support and for assistance with their daily living. And for singles that do and start living in our community, it's the assistance that you get in assisted living. And then as you age and decline, there's the continuum of care. God forbid if you get from assisted to memory care, that memory support is available. So you're not moving out to another building with new faces and a new care team. And, it's a new beginning. So instead of moving out to another new building, you continue living at the same building and you just transition from assisted to memory care. So that is the convenience, and it's just easier on the resident to make that transition and for the family.
So if I was an individual that had very mild dementia, but maybe a family history or concerns that I am going to need memory care at some point in the future, then having both might be a good consideration.
Yes, and then our team, keeps an eye on you. Let's say you're our resident and assisted, and as you continue living, your condition changes. I mean, we do assessments based on the change of condition. As we see you falling more quite often, or forgetting, or where your apartment is, or things where we have more eyes on you to see your decline where you might not notice it, but we will, and our care team will. And then if you're the responsible party, you're the one answering, like making the decision for the next step, or your emergency contact, or your POA, power of attorney. So that's how we go about. Sometimes when we're living in our day-to-day living, we don't notice our decline, and others see it, in terms of the falls or the memory and whatnot. So.
Same question to you, Lisa, and then I'll go to the guys on either end. So you're independent living, assisted living. So why do prospective residents decide on your style of community for independent assisted versus just a strictly only assisted independent? What are some of the things you hear that would cause someone to go in that direction?
Well, I mean, that really brings that forever home together, because here, we go up to a level 4, which is probably about equivalent of your level 8. So how many times do you want to move? You've settled, you've made your friends, you're happy where you are. And, none of us have that crystal ball to know when the change may happen. But knowing that, in my particular building, it's within that same community. So you're not moving across to another building. And especially we're a very open campus. And so, for example, we cannot do memory care. But that being said, many people, when routines are established well in advance, whether you do have everyone as we age, our memory is affected, that you have already routines in place, which helps you be more successful long-term. And so I think there's a lot to be said about you. I know it's hard to even think about leaving a home, but great, that's going to fit me for now. But what's the next step after that? And it's a gift you do give your family as well to plan ahead.
Thank you. So let me jump to you, Mark. So when you have people looking at your community or an independent living community, why do they choose that versus one that has multiple under the same roof?
To be perfectly honest, some people just don't want to see the preview of what's to happen. Sometimes you don't want to be around people that have Alzheimer's and dementia, or that have a higher level of care. And so they've decided that they're going to choose to live in a community that they don't have to see that. Out of sight, out of mind, right? We can bury our head in the sand. That doesn't mean that they're not planning ahead, but that's just what they've decided that they wanted. Now, on the other side, I'm strictly independent living, and that's great. That's what I can provide. But so many people, what we didn't hit on of why you should look at maybe an assisted living or one that has IL, AL, and memory care, and it's a very important one, is location. If one of you doesn't need memory care, how far is it to go and see that person? How far away is it from your kids? If you live in Spanish Springs and you pick a building, a memory care unit in South Reno, how often are you going to be able to get down and see your loved one? That's very important. You want to be close. You want to be able to make sure that it's not a chore to go see your loved one, or have your loved ones see you. So make sure you're deciding on locale as well. There are lovely buildings everywhere in this town. And I tell people when they come to me, oh, my kids are all up in Spanish Springs. I'm like, this is probably not the right one. You should go look at these. So make sure you also look at that. But that's one of the benefits of living in one of these blended communities is one person can live in independent living. The other one's right there. You literally go down the hallway and see them, and then you can go back.
Thank you. Nate, what would you add to that as to what you hear why people have chosen independent only versus one of the other wonderful communities that has multiple levels?
Yeah, I think when we have prospects who they've made a lot of right decisions in life, right? They've done very well. And then health, they've treated their bodies well enough that they have the choice, right, to move into an independent living community. And so we want to, congratulate them on that and applaud that, that they can have that choice to do it. That's like the biggest key, I would say, is being able to choose and, choose so the choice isn't made for you. That's my biggest advice to people.
And are you all encouraging them to have their plan B if something happens and they're in whatever level with whatever community? What would the next step be?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we always want to advise folks to there's so many great options around our community, memory cares, assisted living, SNFs, that we want people to be educated about those things.
Okay, great. You have something you wanted to add, Mark?
Make sure you plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? Have a plan A, plan B, and a plan C, and hope you never need it, right?
So let's talk about questions. If we came to your communities, what's 2 to 3 great questions the audience should ask if they're looking at evaluating different communities? And they've all got a head start because they've got a whole lot of questions. What do you think are the most important questions?
Well, I can take that one to start. I think longevity of staff. How long have people been with the company? What is the attitude? What's the feeling that you get? Hey, let's face it. Another question is always, what is the rent increases? How often do they occur? Cost of living, as we all know, is going up. And then, what do I need to plan for? Obviously, everyone's portfolios are not growing by 20% now. So that's a consideration. And then, really, yeah, like what kind of support, I think, what kind of support is for those next steps? Are there medical teams available? The complexity of perhaps, helping you navigate, like just because you're feeling ill, does it mean that we have to call 911? What kind of medical staff is present? What is the system if I need help?
Great, thank you.
Now, needing assistance. So we do have, and other communities also have it. It's a pendant call system where when you move in to assisted living, you get a pendant. It's like a necklace or a bracelet. And that's what you can press. And that's our call system where you can call for care and any assistance you need. So that is available 24 hour.
So if I fall and I can't move, I can hit the pendant and help will come?
Yes. Yes.
I would ask how the food is and if you can try it, right? So ask a lot of questions about food and if you can try it.
I think the second part of that's probably the most important, trying it. Because if you ask,
Food is very important. Yes. Food is also a number one question, very commonly asked. And the clubs, what kind of clubs we have. So if you were in middle school, high school, or college, and you always wanted to start a club, you can come to our community and start that club that you always wanted to start. If it's a book club or walking club or cribbage club. So we do have clubs in our community. So that's that.
how many questions are in that handout when you go to a community? A lot? I hear 3 pages of questions. So do we need to ask all of those questions that have been provided?
Well, not necessarily, because it may not be pertinent to your situation. But yes, I mean, if you're looking forward, another thing that just popped to my mind is transportation. It's wonderful that we have Uber, but what if you have a walker? What if you're in a wheelchair? What if you need your power chair? You know, how does the transportation meet your needs down the way? You know, some are strictly steps up to the bus, others have lifts. So that's one that I see can become a barrier very quickly.
Right. So I think I've just brought up a slide that has some of the questions. Our advice, our panelists would all say, go through all of the questions and circle the ones that are important to you. If you don't have pets, then asking if pets are allowed probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So just go through the ones and maybe even number them if you're considering a community. You know, what's the showstopper that, you know, number one, if they don't have this, I'm definitely not going to that community. Yeah, so maybe just prioritizing, because we all have different priorities in terms of what's important to us. You know, if they don't accept pets, then, you know, the community's out. That might be a showstopper. Others might be more of a nice to have, but I can live without it. Yeah, so yeah, just prioritize the questions. So just before we go to question and answer, I guess my last question for each of you, just a brief answer, is when should we start considering our options, our plan B? We have our plan A, we're never moving. When should we start working on plan B?
It needs to start today, as far as I'm concerned.
Why, Mark? Why today? We're all happy where we are.
You know, you never know when that stroke is going to happen. You never know when that heart attack is going to happen. You never know if you get in a car accident that's not your fault or is an act of God, right? And that will change. That will change your plan A in a hot second, and you don't even know it. We always tend to say, "Oh, it's never going to happen to me." Well, chances are it will, and you just want to make sure you're ready for it. So I always say, now, all the things that I procrastinated on, and I didn't make that plan because I didn't want to do it. I wish I would have done that. You know, I always, when the time comes, you always wish you had it. So I always say now.
Thank you. Anything else that you guys want to add?
Yeah, I mean, just how much do you want to be able to participate in that decision? I think that's really the important. I love that slide that you had up in this front. I mean, it's so true.
And then you have a choice today. You might not have that choice tomorrow or by tonight. So life happens, you know, and so plan ahead.
I mean,
So-
can
yeah,
I,
go, Nate.
you guys are all here. You're researching. You've made the first step, right? So congratulate yourselves. We're not talking to you, the people in the room. We're talking to people outside.
But then take the next step and the next step and the next step. Yeah, don't stop where you are. Just to make it easier, we've put a resource up on our website. It's in your handout. But if you're wanting to see what all the retirement communities are locally, we have a map on our website. You can click on any of the dots to see what they are. They're color-coded based on independent living, assisted living, memory care. I cover all of them. I left out one. No, I got all of them. Great. Yeah, thank you. I just see 4 colored dots. I'm trying to work out what's. Oh, maybe yeah, skilled nursing facilities. Yeah, and there's a link in the handout telling you where to go on our website to find this. And on that same page is phone numbers, descriptions of each of the communities. As Annette said, we have a handbook as well. Put a slide in on that. Yeah, on this page, it details all of the communities. There's a senior community directory. You can download a PDF that has all of the information in more detail about which communities provide what. And then we also have hard copies of those. We didn't have enough to bring today. So on the evaluation form, if that would be something that's helpful, there's a box on your yellow form you can check, and we'll mail you out a courtesy copy of the directory. It's like 20 pages, has all of the communities again in it, contact details, what they provide, and so forth. And of course, all these guys are. So before we go to question and answers, just upcoming seminars. So on August the 18th, back here, we have the truth about paying for retirement living. So how do we pay for life as we continue to go on? And obviously in a down market, when our stocks and everything have been hit, it's more important to understand what are the resources and tools that we have available to us. And then on September the 15th, we have the truth about advocating for yourself and equally importantly, those you love. So how do we advocate for us and for others? So we'll have some great speakers for that. And then on September the 22nd, we're going to do a community bus tour where we're going to go and visit these 4 communities actually. So if you're interested in that, again, on your yellow evaluation form, there's a checkbox if you'd like to be on the community tour. And just to give you a little insight to the community tour.
Like this, is that residents or prospective residents get to see the different communities, how they differ from each other, how they're the same, how to compare, what they really want in a retirement community. We're so glad that you're here today. Real quick, we're just gonna kind of go over how today will work. First thing is we're gonna do a quick movie. Then we're going to head over to the fireside room. We'll have lunch and answer questions. And then we will also do a tour of this building and the campus.
Anybody that is going into retirement, this is an ideal situation. When you consider the upkeep on a large home, this isn't that expensive if it's comparable to what we would be spending on upkeep in our own.
Tours are great because it opens up your world to what the alternatives are out there for seniors in transition. And this is good not only for obviously for seniors on this, but also for their spouses and their families to understand what's available as they help their seniors transition into the next phase of life.
So we're walking into our independent living section. So we have 278 apartments here. It is a modeled apartment, so you get to see what type of furniture you should be bringing in and how much it fits.
It has been a wonderful experience until now. I thought retirement homes are like nursing homes where everybody's in a wheelchair and, not communicating, not participating in any activities and, just kind of ready to die. But these places are die hopefully. Everybody's so active, interactive, and thank you so much. I very much enjoyed the tour. They broke it up with information, snacks, lunch, ice cream. Got to meet a lot of really nice ladies. A lot of people see retirement communities as something that happens, or like a nursing home. So a lot of people are very surprised when they come to communities to see what is offered and how much you can feel like home. I look forward to seeing other facilities so I can make a good choice.
That was from one of our past tours. So the bar's been set high because I heard lunch, snacks, ice cream. So our attendees here. So if you would like to attend that, we have limited space. Again, on your evaluation form, if you check the box, and then we'll reach back out and confirm. The way it'll work is we'll have buses arrive here on that day, probably around 9 a.m. or 8:30ish, and we'll board the buses, and then we'll do a tour of the 4 communities. I think the way we're going to do it, thanks to Mark, he had a great suggestion. We're going to use 4 different buses, and we'll split you up between the 4 buses. Bus A will go to the first community, bus B the second community, and so on. And then we'll kind of rotate. We'll get back on the bus and go to the next community. And we'll be done probably around 2:30, 3 o'clock. So probably about an hour and a half at each community. The 4 represented here. Yes. So these will be your tour guides, them and their colleagues. So let's jump to, oops, sorry. Oops. Yeah, let's jump to a Q&A. So who has questions? Oh, we have questions. So let's get our mic runners. Who are our mic runners? Today, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Can you just introduce quickly who you are?
I'm Tom McDonald with Mutual of Omaha Reverse Mortgage. As you can expect, reverse mortgages are affected by interest rate, but still viable. And we can now do age 55 and up in some cases.
Ivan, wow, nice change. And who's our other mic runner?
I am.
Oh, my beautiful wife, Annette. It's going to be.
I'm
mic
Annette
runner.
Janelle, and Brett and I have our real estate business. We focus on helping people downsize, and we have Janelle Moves Made Easy to help with all the belongings inside the home and help with the whole process to make it easier for you.
Awesome. So we had a hand up over here. We'll get to you in just a moment. Let's start this way, and you can make your way to the back, Tom. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the scary question. I wanted to find out what is your waiting list time for all your properties, and what is the deposit you have to make to get on your waiting list?
Let's start with you, Mark, and we'll just quickly run across this way.
Get on my waiting list, it's a $1,500 deposit, depending on the apartment that you're waiting for. The list could be 35 to 40 people, or it could be 3 people, but I have a waiting list.
Can you just move your mic up closer? It's cutting in and out. I'm not sure why, Mark. Lisa, same question.
I do not charge to be on my waiting list. I just ask, please call me back and let me know where you are in the process. Some of the more, it's an ebb and flow. I have people waiting for 1 bedrooms, and then all I have is 2 bedroom and larger available. So it really, it can differ, but it's definitely for the larger units, we're running a waiting list.
You have a waiting list at the moment. How many people would be on that waiting list just roughly?
Well, we have like 9 different floor plans. So there's a lot to choose from.
What's your longest waiting list?
Is for the largest. And that's probably about 20 people deep.
20 people deep?
Yeah.
Okay. Nita?
So currently we have a waiting list for 2 bedroom apartments, but others are available in assisted living and memory care.
How long would the list be for 2 bedrooms? How many people?
So 5.
5? Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. Nate?
My waiting list began about 2 months ago at 95% occupancy. So I have a couple studios left, and it's 4 or 5 on each floor plan, right? Got the 2 bedrooms, of course. And to get on the waiting list, we just require a $1,500 deposit. I do have some folks that have decided, hey, I'm going to move into this studio or a 1 bedroom if it's available, and they become first on the list for an in-house move, right? If you live in the community, you get first choice on moving.
Nita, what was your deposit?
Yes, I apologize. So deposit is 5,000. On the waiting list, sorry, I'm not sure the current amount like on the waiting list to be, but for a deposit to move in the community is 5,000. Yes, come on the bus tour and find out.
Great question. Over here.
My question is approximately what is the annual increase in rent, whatever you want to call it, increases?
Do we have an industry average at all at the moment?
There really isn't an industry average. Every city will have a different number. Every community will choose a different number. But if you hear of a community that says they don't do an increase or they're going to guarantee a 3%, you might want to look someplace else.
A little bit of research I did last time we did this topic, it was like 4 to 6% was kind of the average range of annual increases. That was nationwide, so I don't know about specifically for here.
That might have been true last year, but I think we're going to be seeing a little higher numbers this year.
Yeah, good point. Cost of everything's gone up. Next question. Here.
What were your COVID-19 policies, and what are they now in terms of mask mandates, social distancing, vaccination status, boosters, things of that nature?
I'd like to take that. Do we have a
So
more about now versus what we had in the past would be helpful.
I think right now the difference between an independent living and assisted living is assisted living is going to be controlled.
Hey, Mark, sorry to be a pain. Can you just hold
think it's
your mouth or
okay.
you sleep? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that you have to look at is independent living versus assisted living. Assisted living is going to be running off of state mandates from the health department. We're going to have to follow those rules. Independent living is kind of doing what their best practice are. Right now, most independent livings that I know of it's optional. Social distancing is social distance, but in my community, I locked it down when COVID hit. Everybody up, raged against that. They all started throwing parties in their apartments, and it was hard to control. So we're back to fully open. We allow people to wear masks if they want. If you have COVID, you still need to isolate in place. But things are going back to normal now. So I'm glad to see that.
Similar for you, Nate. Sorry, if you can wait, we'll get a mic over to you.
First one.
We'll get you next. So Nate, similar for you?
Yeah, similar for us. We've been fortunate to not have too much in our building, but currently, yeah, we ask residents to isolate for 5 days in their apartment and then wear a mask for the next 5 days. And if you don't feel good, don't come hang out with us, right? That's kind of common sense. So we're able to use common sense where, we can speak more to AL.
And these guys are going to hang around for 20 minutes at the end. So if you have specific questions that we didn't get to, please come up and ask. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a veteran. In 1969, I was in Vietnam, and to the panel, What do you do for veterans that have PTSD that you don't recognize professionally as a veteran with PTSD? Where do they stand on the waiting list, and do they have any preferential treatment to get to the top of the list?
I can take that. I can tell you that 5 Star is a corporation. First of all, thank you for your service. We do offer a 5% discount on your base rent for the entire time that you are residing with us. The mental health piece is a little bit more complex only because of the fact that when you're in independent living, that is truly independent living. And typically those services are then you're seeing, someone through the VA, for example. When you are on a more licensed area, then we can refer out for social. Unless you're in skilled nursing, which is the SNF, that is where you'll start to see social workers that are actively participating in that. So it's a hard thing because each one of those areas has their own. No, not really. No, that the levels of care within assisted living actually have more to do with that physicality of care that you need, not the mental. And I know.
Sorry, I need to stop because the recording and other people can't hear what's being said. So unless we have a microphone, let's keep it to that, please.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. I know that a lot of people have pets and they love their dogs, but for those of us who do not have dogs and don't want to be bothered with barking dogs, what is your policy on that?
Yeah, we do. If we have an issue with a pet or animal, we're going to have that conversation with the resident, right? If the animal's not appropriate for the setting, then they'll need to find a new home. I'll say I haven't had too many issues with that personally. So yeah. Oh no, yeah.
So we have a dog park, so you can take your dog in that park and then he or she can bark all day long and then come in to sleep.
So do we ever ask a resident that their dog's no longer appropriate because of continual barking, or to be screened, pets at all in any way? I'm just curious.
We do a little behavioral test before we do a meet and greet just to make sure, because certain animals are so nervous that they'll bark at any sound outside their door. So we try to kind of do something in the front part of that. So yeah, I understand. It's hard. We also have a patio level. So we try to pair all of our residents with pets on the patio, because then they can just walk right out their back door and onto the paths and walk the dog. So a lot of it is just lack of exercise for the animals.
So that'd be a great question when you're interviewing communities. Yeah, ask that. It's important from people. Where do we get to? Which side of the room are we on?
Yeah, I think the answer has been implied, but not specifically stated with your waiting lists, especially with the independent and assisted care living. If you're on the waiting list and you get into your facility as independent, are you guaranteed a position in the assisted care when you start to need it, or in the mental health part of it?
Yeah, I can take that as well. Yes, indeed. And the thing is that sometimes things do happen very quickly. However, most of the time that dialogue, because there's so many eyes on our residents, we'll see, we quite often have at-risk conversations. So we're saying, oh, we saw Betty really struggled today and was very confused. And so we try to be very proactive in helping. So yes, as an internal resident, you always have priority for the next available. Well, it's about timing. Yeah.
If there isn't something available, does that imply then I'm going to need to move somewhere else? If I really need to be in assisted living or memory care and there isn't a unit available, what happens?
Well, actually, no, because the thing is that there's so many great services that can be provided for you in your home to help kind of bridge that time is what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, yes, if it was ideal, you would just seamlessly, it would happen, but there's also, a move, furniture needs to be moved, things that need to happen. So we do not have a respite care. And that's another thing I think we should talk about is, do places have respites? We do not at this time. So
What does that mean, Lisa?
so respite care is somewhere where you can actually bring either a loved one, especially typically this is an assisted living level, that you would be able to just stay for like a week or two, or maybe even a month to see if it's an appropriate placement. In assisted living, there is so much paperwork involved at most places doing respites. It's quite difficult.
Thank you. Over here.
Yes, for those of you who require payments to get on the waiting list, and I think 2 or 3 of you said that is the case. What if a person decides not to move in or gets another place? Do they get any refund or a portion thereof?
That's really a policy for each community, but at Revel Ranchero, it's a fully refundable deposit. The wait list could grow if it was for us. We found that if a wait list has no price on it, you spend your whole time going through the wait list, and they're not really serious. The people who you want to contact first are the ones that put some skin in the game. That's what I found.
Any questions on this side? Tom, you come down here. Thank you.
Yes, this concerns independent living. Does it happen that somebody moves in and after a while decide this isn't right for me, aside from moving in with a child or going out of state? They just decided this isn't the place I want to be.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we hadn't really discussed that. When you sign an agreement with any ILs or here, we all have different policies on a notice, right? So a lot of it will be 30 days, 60 days. If you move in and try it out for a month and you feel like, hey, this isn't the right fit for me, I need to go move in with my daughter, or I need a higher level of care, et cetera. Then it would require a 30-day notice. Sometimes if it's a medical issue, then it could be even less than that for us. But you would want to ask that question when you go to and tour a community. Hey, what's the notice like, right? Am I signing? Because I know that some of them have different policies than probably what we have up here.
What I'm hearing out though is we're not signing up for life. I'm not committing for the next 5 years. I'm committing basically month to month. Would that be correct for all of us?
Yeah.
No, Mark?
Again, you need to look at what the agreement is that you sign. Some people sign a 12-month lease, and you need to look at in that lease, what are the terms for breaking that lease? In certain situations, you will be responsible for it for 12 months. You really need to be focused on what's in that lease. And if they're not willing to give you a copy of the lease ahead of time and explain that to you in writing, you really need to move on to the next place down the way. But everyone will give you a copy of that lease, and have them point out where is it in the lease that explains notice.
I just heard a great pearl of wisdom from Mark, and I'm not sure if it's in our questions, but make sure you get a copy of the lease. Have the community person walk you through the lease, and then you read the lease, or have someone else you trust read the lease to make sure you understand what it is you're signing up to, just like any contract, the contract. Over here.
My question is directed to the assisted living ladies. Let's say that I qualify under my insurance to be in assisted living, and my wife has got an assisted living policy, but is not ready. Can the two of us live together in assisted living? And is there a prorated rate for the person who is not in need of assisted living?
Yes, that's a great question. No, you would not need to activate your policy. So you would only reside as a second occupant. And for our assisted living, second occupant fee is $900. So until the time that you maybe needed that extra care, which of course would be decided with your physician and our care team, then that is when yours would become active. No, you don't have to use it unless you need it.
So I'm just curious, that $900, what am I paying $900 for my spouse to be in there?
Well, that's the room and board.
Room and board?
Yeah, yeah, meals, food.
Yeah.
And ours is the same, but it's 1,000 for the second person.
They handed me the microphone, so so I'm keeping it. If you're in the independent living, and by the way, we probably have put a deposit at Revel, and you need you or your spouse develops memory care, what do you provide to help them move to a memory care unit? And it's for all you to answer.
So we're located right next to Revel, and we have memory care, and we have been, partners working together, Mark and I. He has had residents that have had their spouses in our building, while one spouse is in independent living and the other one is in memory care or assisted living. So we have worked really well together, and we're located literally in the same parking lot, you would say. Yes, so we're there.
Oh, it needs a mic.
I haven't worked, not knowing the name, I can't tell you. So, it's going to be the same with either of them. Usually when you're making that transition, we already know that you're ready to move, that it's happening. We're hopefully working with your family or you or your spouse. And we start getting you into that conversation, and then we start getting you resources that can help. As far as financial assistance, there isn't any, but we do have a list of movers and individuals that can help you with making that move if you need that. Yeah, we would give you a list because we're purely independent. We can help you with that, but we would give you a list of resources that you could call.
Hello. Oh, sorry. So since we're located right next to Revel, let's say your spouse is ready for memory care, we will have our nurse. We have a 24-hour nurse, a health services director that will come over and do an assessment for memory care. So because we are so closely located, it's easier for our nursing team to go over and do an assessment versus, making an appointment, waiting for a few days or the commute. So that's not the case with our locations.
I just have a quick question. When I put my deposit down to get on the waiting list, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to do before too long, if I pass before it happens, what does my family do? I mean, I don't know what tomorrow brings. Yeah.
What happens to your deposit?
Yeah. Do they get it back?
Again, you have to, I go back and I don't want to speak for everybody because, and I'm trying not to say, well, at Ranchera, we do. Really look at the contract, but I would think that almost any of the reputable communities, all the family would have to do is say, my mother's passed, it's refundable. And we say, where would you like us to send the check to and to whom?
Check the contract. Yeah, just in case. Time for one last question. Do we have last question before we just? No, so I'm just going to say thank you so much for everyone here. Thank you so much to our panel.